Nigerian Labour has issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government over non-implementation of agreements. And INEC has indicated the political parties are ready for the Edo governorship election. They said 16 of them, but we will be getting more insight on the last Saturday election and the preparation for the crucial Edo and Ondo governorship elections tonight. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimbale in Abuja. Let's tell you that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, has been weighing on the major national issues, the economy, the security, and he's addressed a press conference today at the nation's capital, specifically the National Assembly. He took on different issues. He spoke on the worrying state of insecurity in the country. Take a listen to him.
While recognizing and commending the patriotic and courageous efforts of our security agencies, we must have the courage to effect changes where necessary. These are among the issues that the forthcoming Legislative Security Summit will address. This summit, which comes up in a matter of weeks, will, among others, allow us to hear directly from the key stakeholders in the sector and come up with legislative measures to modernize our security system and improve its operational efficiency and effectiveness. We will not convene this summit alone. We will do the summit in collaboration with executives so that whatever we come up with at the end of the day will be a product of their own inputs as well. It will not be just the legislators' inputs. It will be a combined inputs of both the legislature and the executives.
This is some of the perspectives of the Speaker and the plans that the House has in respect of security. What about the economy? Take a listen to the Speaker on the issues relating to the economy.
We're equally committed to reversing the downturn and setting our country back on a path of sustainable growth. The policies of the Tinubu-led government are designed to stimulate the economy, encourage investment, and create jobs. We understand the urgency of the situation and are working tirelessly to alleviate the hardships many of you are experiencing. The issue of food shortages is particularly close to my heart. Food security is fundamental to national security. We are implementing comprehensive strategies to boost agricultural production, improve supply chains, and ensure that affordable food is accessible to everyone, regardless of where they live.
And those are some of what the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, said today at a press conference addressed alongside some senior members of the National Assembly today at the National Assembly. So we'll tonight look into the threat that the NLC and the TUC had raised and the ultimatum given by the organized labor to the federal government in respect of the agreement that the two sides have come up with. But they say that the federal government has failed on its own part to fulfilling those agreements, and they have given them 14 days ultimatum to fulfill, or else they'll go to the streets to down tool and somewhat protest the actions of the federal government. Those are the plans of the Nigerian Labour, a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government for non-implementation of agreements. And tonight, we'll be getting insights, very informed insight on the price of commodities. They got order for federal government to fix price of some of these commodities. Where do we go from here as the hardship is biting so hard in the land? Plus also, tonight, we will be dissecting the elections of last Saturday. Some people have gotten the certificate of return. INEC is already talking about Edo and Ondo governorship election. There are those who have their misgivings about the manner in which INEC went about that exercise. We'll be getting insight tonight directly from INEC. But stick around with me, everyone, because we need to serve you some of these political roundup stories.
A bill to establish an agency that will regulate the activities of local and international civil society organizations has been stepped down in the House of Representatives. The bill was stepped down after members kicked against the possibility of gagging civil society organizations. Meanwhile, the House is asking the government to put on hold any proposed plan to recall the heads of Chancery from Nigeria's foreign missions abroad. Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benue State has inaugurated the suspended APC State Welfare Secretary, Mr. Benjamin Omakolo, as a factional chairman following a court order restraining Mr. Austin Agada from parading himself as APC chairman in the ongoing leadership crisis in the state chapter of the party. Although the governor says the appointment is in acting capacity to fill the vacuum created by the court order, the state publicity secretary, Mr. Dan Ihomun, in a statement on behalf of the state working committee, says Mr. Austin Agada remains the state chairman and the party will resist the move by the governor. The resident electoral commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Osun State, Mutiu Agboke, has appealed to the leadership of the political parties in the state to speak up against vote buying and electoral violence. Mr. Agboke, who was speaking with journalists shortly after monitoring the election of new state executive members of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, urged IPAC to use their influence on political parties to preach against vote buying and violence in elections. The Nigeria Labour Congress and its counterpart union, the Trade Union Congress, have issued a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to address the worsening state of the economy and its attendant effects on the citizens. A joint statement issued by the two labor unions and signed by their presidents expressed concern over the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement reached with the federal government on how to cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal and improve the welfare of workers. The statement describes the non-implementation of those agreements as a blatant disregard for the principles of good faith, welfare, and rights of Nigerian workers. The statement concludes with a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to honor its part of the agreement with the workers. The ultimatum will expire on February 9, when the unions will take further actions if their demands are not met.
Thank you so much, everyone. And there you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. So we told you earlier, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, have issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government over the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement both parties reached after the removal of the petrol subsidy. There was a statement signed by the leaders of the two labor unions, that is, Comrade Joe Ajero and Comrade Festus Osifo. They signed those the statement today. The organized labor are expressing their sadness that despite the passage of time, the majority of these crucial agreements remain unmet or negligibly addressed, indicating a blatant disregard for the principles of good faith, welfare, and the rights of Nigerian workers and Nigerians. The organized labor says that it's given the federal government 14 days starting for tomorrow, February the 9th to February the 14th, 2024, to fulfill its part of the understanding with the labor union. Of course, we know that rerun and by-elections were conducted in about 29 states of the Federation last Saturday, and INEC has since started giving out certificates of return for those who have emerged victorious in that election. As well, the Court of Appeal has also inaugurated tribunals to address any grievances or misgivings that have come out of the conduct of that exercise. INEC is already talking about its plans ahead of the Ondo and Edo governorship election. They've in fact confirmed to Nigerians today how many political parties are ready to go into the governorship primaries in the different states. Let's get talking with the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Rotimi Oyekomi, who joins us virtually from here in Abuja. Thank you so much, Rotimi, for your time tonight. Rotimi, it seems you muted your device. Can you unmute, please?
I hope you can hear me now. Good evening.
Oh, good. Loud and clear. Good evening. Good to see you, Mr. Oyekomi. Right. Let's get started. Right. First and foremost, the latest coming out from INEC in respect of Edo governorship election. What can you tell us?
Well, we released the timetable and schedule of activities, and this press statement that we issued today is to talk about the conduct of primaries. And political parties are expected to inform the commission, give the notice about their intended primaries. And there was a deadline given to them, and they have now done so. And the commission has issued a statement to say that 16 political parties have indicated interest and given us the dates and venues of where the primaries will hold. And we try to remind them of the rules and regulations that because the election will take place in Edo State, the primaries should also take place in Edo State. And then we urge them to avoid the rancorous primaries and to follow their own rules. Because if they don't follow their own rules, and these are things that will lead to litigations and problems for the political party and by extension the commission.
Okay, so are there specific dates that are being apportioned for these primaries, specifically in Edo? Because Edo, it looks that you paid more attention to the governorship primaries in Edo.
Yeah, there are some specific dates. As each, our statements show the dates. But I'm trying to get the press statement now to get the specific dates. But all parties have indicated the dates, and we put them there. I don't have the statement here. It's a rundown, and I don't have the dates specifically in my head. But the press statement gives all the information about those dates, and it is to remind the political parties to ensure that they comply with what they have given to the commission.
Okay. From what you released in your statement, you said 16 political parties have notified the commission of their intention to participate in that election. That is standard right now, and no other political parties. The window is now shut. Any political parties outside of the 16 can no longer be parties in it.
Well, we have a deadline. So as at the deadline, the 16 political parties have given us their notices, and we recognize that. And now I don't think any political party can give any other notice past the deadline, because, of course, in the timetable and schedule of activities that we issue, the timelines are there, and political parties are expected to comply with the timelines.
You said the conduct of the primaries in Edo should happen between the 1st and 24th of February. That's according to the statement that the commission released today. And you went further to state to them the laws guiding the conduct of the primaries within the state in line with Section 84.4 and Section 5 of the Electoral Act. There are three kinds of conduct that the electoral law has indicated or recognized. That is the direct, the indirect, and the consensus. Is that right?
That's right.
And every primary must be witnessed and monitored by INEC. Is that right?
Yes, of course.
So give us an understanding of what is going on in some political parties. Some political parties are having leadership issues. And we do know that in state governorship primaries, it is the national body of the parties that conduct these primaries. As INEC, what can you tell us what INEC has arrived at in terms of these leadership issues and those whom you have recognized in some of these political parties that are having crises?
Well, I'm not sure there are many political parties with leadership crises. Like you said, we deal with the national body of political parties. And for us, it is better for political parties to amicably resolve their internal issues. INEC is not expected to intervene, although if they ask us to intervene, we have an alternative dispute resolution unit that can help them with whatever issues that they have. But as you know, some of them might decide to go to court, and when they do that, INEC cannot interfere. But of course, this is the beginning of it. If there are issues, it is expected that the political parties will resolve their internal issues. INEC does not interfere in that. For us, as contained in our press statement, we will advise them to please follow their own rules, resolve whatever differences there are, and make sure that they present a united front. So we expect them to produce their candidate from the primaries, which we are going to witness, and most especially to follow their own rules and allow things to run smoothly.
So give us an understanding of what we need to know in respect to Ondo. Is there any information in respect to Ondo governorship election?
Not yet. I'm sure the commission will come up with something as soon as possible, but we are dealing with Edo now. Ondo will happen later.
All right. Let's talk about the outcome of the by-elections in about 29 states. That's where most of these by-elections and court-ordered rerun elections happened. There are those that are not concluded, just about a few of them, a handful of some of these elections. What has INEC decided over those ones that are not concluded?
Well, again, we issued a press statement today that the places where elections could not hold, either due to violence, we cancelled or postponed, or because of the election was inconclusive. In Taraba, for instance, it was inconclusive. In Kano and other places, there was violence, and in Enugu, and we had to cancel the election. It will hold on the 14th of February, and we have issued a statement today to notify the political parties and to implore them to ensure that they allow peace to reign and contain their supporters and their members, not to ruffle the feathers, because we need a peaceful environment for election to hold. So the supplementary election will now hold on 14 February, and the political parties have been notified, and hopefully we will conclude all of that by that time.
That's on Valentine's Day that you're hoping to conduct election. Is there any specific reason why INEC wanted to conduct election during the week? You conduct elections on Saturdays.
No, there is no special reason except for the fact that we have a timeline. And of course, you also have to consider the legal implications. At the time we were making the decision, we didn't know it was going to fall on Valentine's Day anyway. And I'm not even sure politicians recognize Valentine's Day. When it comes to election, they just want to get on with it and just conclude it.
But give us an understanding of some of these highly disputed elections in some of the states coming out of Saturday election. Those allegations made in Enugu, in Ebonyi. What is the position of the commission in this respect?
Well, it depends. Which one specifically and which allegations are you referring to?
In Enugu, there are issues related to allegations of manipulation of the process, which led to the incident that INEC reacted to it and took a decision. How has INEC dealt with that situation?
Well, when that happened, we, of course, canceled the election, and we are going back to conduct the election now. There were allegations which could not be proved. For instance, we saw something on social media that some of our staff were involved in one or two things, and we issued a statement to say that our staff, the person that was circulated on social media, is not a staff of the Guardian, is not the staff of the Commission. And of course, we took the right decision that we normally take in such instances to suspend the election and then we are going back to conduct it. We will not tolerate bad behavior, either from our staff or from the politicians. And these rules are known to politicians and to our staff. So if we conduct election and it is disrupted, if hoodlums attack our polling units and cut away our election materials, for instance, or where materials are not available where they're supposed to be available, there are consequences for that. And our action has demonstrated that we're not going to reward bad behavior. So we took the right decision. You know, we conducted these elections in 48 constituencies, and we declared in 45 constituencies. So we are going back to these other 3 constituencies to complete the process.
Well, what lessons have you learned from these by-elections? Because every election in Nigeria has its own intricacies, has its own dynamism and dynamics to it. What lessons has INEC been able to take out of this Saturday's conduct?
Well, the truth of the matter is that we performed very well. All the plans that we made, we were able to carry them out successfully. We trained our ad hoc staff, and of course, our returning officers performed very well. Our bimodal voter accreditation system performed well. We didn't have any complaints except in 1 or 2 places. And the INEC result viewing portal was also excellent. As I speak, if you go to the RF portal, you will see all the results there. And the security agencies did very, very well. The assurances we got from the National Security Advisor, the Inspector General of Police, that they will ensure that the environment is conducive for voters to exercise their will. You know, like the promise was fulfilled. But in places, of course, and that's for us a surprise that in this day and age, you still have people who feel that they can send thugs to invade our polling unit and attempt to snatch ballot boxes, which of course will not give them any advantage, is something that we need to interrogate and continue to talk about in our elections among stakeholders. We need to deal with all these issues. But for us, I think looking at the overall activities that took place, everything went well. Where there are issues, it wasn't because INEC was not ready to conduct the election. It was because there was interference. And of course, the lessons learned will also be applied in future elections because, you know, for us, no 2 elections are the same. Whether it's a by-election, a rerun election, end of tenure election, or the big general election, you find that, yes, you will have similarities, but there will be distinct things that will be different from the last one. And we continue to improve on our activities. Logistics was good. We opened the polling unit well ahead of time. In many places, by 8:30, many of the polling units had opened. They were waiting for the voters to start the accreditation process. So the reports we got, in percentage terms, I think this election went well, and we are satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, there are reports of INEC officials getting on the field early enough, polls opening early enough, but there are accusations, for example, in Ebonyi election, there are accusations coming from a political party that, specifically coming from the PDP now, and INEC undermined the participation of the PDP. The issues of vote buying crept up again. A minimum of about 1,500 naira are being seen being distributed to voters. But one thing that is perturbing is the case of pre-filling of election results. And this is becoming a very critical and worrying scenario plaguing our election. which played out largely also in the last election, governorship election that we saw a few months ago, last year.
Let me say this to you. INEC would not tolerate bad behavior either from our staff or from politicians. The issue of pre-filled result sheets, where there is evidence that that happened, and we thoroughly investigate and we find any of our staff culpable, there is a code of conduct in the commission, and all staff members are aware of that. If you cross the red line and you attempt to sabotage the process and you try to influence the election to favor a particular party or candidate, there are consequences for it. So we assure Nigerians. And you know, when these things happen, you have to thoroughly investigate what took place. And for us, we will investigate. And when we have all the answers, we will then come out to the public to say that this is what we have discovered and this is the action that we are going to take. It's not the first time that INEC is doing that. But you cannot take an isolated case in the place you have talked about to now, you know, rubbish the entire process of all the rerun and by-elections. I think that it's just an isolated case that people complain. Like I said, we made declaration in 45 out of 48 constituencies. And if you want to read that, that's distinction by any standard. But again, we are looking forward to a situation where all these hiccups, all these challenges that come up during the election will no longer come up.
You know,
we won't have people trying
yeah.
have violence visited on our polling units.
What will worry the mind of anyone is when there are pre-filled election results, it then means that some people are now able to have access to the ballot papers or to the election results sheets prior to when it's been brought to the field, to the polling unit. And that is, I mean, you saw a lot of video in the last 3 governorship elections that were conducted where people came out with evidence of pre-filled election results, which also came up here in the by-elections and the rerun elections conducted. There are allegations of such in Enugu, there are allegations of such in Jos, there are allegations of that in Ebonyi. People are worried about how this is coming up again and again.
Well, you are quite right. What I can assure Nigerians is that at the commission, if we find any of our staff culpable in such instance, because, you know, the leadership of the commission will not tolerate a situation where our own staff will take our own result sheet that is in his custody and pre-fill it before election even starts. And like I said, these are isolated cases. Now, the allegations have been made. We need to investigate thoroughly and find out the truth. Like, you know, when we are conducting these rerun elections and by-elections, there was a picture of a video of one gentleman who was apprehended and was being beaten, and he said one or two things. But we immediately launched an investigation from the headquarters, and we got in touch with the electoral officer in that place and the resident electoral commissioner in that place, and they confirmed to us that that person is not a staff of the commission. So there is no way we will have evidence, you know, that shows clearly that...
The thing is that what can we do to ensure that the access to election result sheets are limited, such that people do not have to take election result sheets, take to their homes or their offices, pre-fill it, and bring it to the politicians? Don't manipulate election result. Is there anything INEC is doing to think again about that process?
Let me say this. You know, we have non-sensitive materials, and then we have sensitive materials. Sensitive materials are domiciled at the central bank. And that's why you find that at the central bank, when these materials are being distributed, all the stakeholders are present. Party agents, civil society, even the media. You people cover such things, you know. So at that point is when these things are handed over. And when they are brought out and they are opened, you know, everybody has access to it. So sensitive materials are not available for people to just toy with. But that's why I'm saying that, you know, it is good to find out the truth about what is really happening, because again, social media has a way of magnifying and exaggerating issues. So one needs to be careful. You know, INEC has become like an easy punching bag for people, and a lot of allegations are made against us, which in the real sense are not true. But I can assure you, Sheil, that if our staff is found culpable, we will not only take action, we will inform Nigerians about what we have done.
All right.
So we believe in credible elections, we don't believe in fraud, and we'll continue to do our best to ensure that bad behavior is not rewarded.
Before I allow you go, Rotimi, in 30 seconds, can you tell us how much effort is being made towards the Edo and Ondo governorship elections? Is INEC trying to tinker with the electronic means of conducting the election, and also the beavers? Are you rejigging the process around beavers? Is there any plans towards it? Just in 30 seconds.
No, we are constantly improving on our equipment. We are constantly improving on our services. And for the Edo and Ondo governorship elections, the lessons we have learned from the general elections will be applied to ensure that loopholes are blocked. Of course, beavers has come to stay. IREV has also come to stay. IREV will be deployed for the two governorship elections, and beavers will be deployed. In fact, the beavers, as you know, is extremely important because of the accreditation through fingerprints and facial recognition. Because without that, with your permanent voter's card, you will not be allowed to vote. So largely, we don't have issues with the beavers, and largely we don't have issues with the IREV. The technical glitch that took place, we have corrected those glitches, and we are assuring Nigerians that moving forward, things will work very well. So we are preparing for the elections. Right. We've done several governorship elections. We've conducted several governorship elections, and they have ended very well. And people are happy, and they have not been annulled by a court of law.
Rotimi Oyekame is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman. Thank you so much for the perspectives and the information that you've shared with us tonight in respect of the past election and the future elections. Thank you so much indeed for tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a break, everyone, and we'll be discussing when we return the plan of the Nigerian labor, the organized labor, and the ultimatum given to the federal government in terms of the agreement that has been made by the two parties, the issues relating to the price of commodities. Where are we headed? The agitations that we have seen in the land. A foremost Nigerian political economist, Professor Patu Tomi, and a former presidential candidate will be joining me next on the program. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So let's focus our attention on the economy. There are situations relating to the price of commodities in Nigeria, agitations against issues related to food shortage. We understand now that the federal government, the president that is, has ordered the release of about 42,000 metric tons of grains from the National Reserve as part of measures to cushion current hardship of food shortage in the country. We understand that information coming from the federal government of Nigeria. But of course, there is a court order asking the federal government to fix the price of goods and petroleum products within 7 days from yesterday when the court gave the order. Justice Ambrose Lewis Alagwa granted the order, secret to an originating motion filed and argued by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana. Mr. Falana dragged the Price Control Board and the Attorney General of the Federation to court, both of whom he listed as defendants before the court to determine whether by the virtue of Section 4, subsection 1 of the Price Control Act, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, the fourth defendant, which is the Price Control Board, is carrying out its duty to impose a price on any goods that are of the kind specified in the fourth schedule to the Price Control Act. We understand that these prices can affect milk, flour, and some other commodities that are essential to the living of general Nigerians. So a lot of people will remember what happens sometimes in the 80s when there are specific special measures and schemes introduced by the then military government. But let's get talking about these issues relating to price control, commodities, and its pricing, and what the federal government has just done. I'm being joined on the program by Professor Patitomi, a political economist who joins us from Lagos. Thank you so much, Prof, and appreciate your time tonight. Give us an understanding. This looks like a critical measure. It looks like an emergency situation that the federal government is faced with. Labor on one hand, putting pressure on government. The prices of commodity and the shortage of those commodities are also putting pressure on Nigerians. But is it the right way to go, though?
Sheon, you are actually putting me in a very difficult situation. My long-standing ally, Femi Falana, SAN, has gone to court. He's gotten a judgment. And this judgment is not going to get us anywhere in solving this economic problem. Now, let me remind everybody about price control and the experience of it. One of the things that people like me who are teachers like to teach businessmen is to get a return on experience. If you have an experience, you get a return on it so that you don't make the same mistake again. If you are not climbing the learning curve, then the cost of progress is much higher for you. Well, back in the 80s, as you already indicated, Nigeria had a price control agency called Prices, Promotions, and Incomes Board, PPIB. PPIB was responsible for many of the problems that structural adjustment tried to deal with. I mean, I've just been writing about what was wrong with structural adjustment. The concept of adjustment was obviously important, but its implementation had problems. However, one of the big challenges of the time that led to structural adjustment was this kind of thing like price control. I give you one that I was intimately associated with. That was ridiculous. First of all, in those days, you used to allocate foreign exchange. It was a block currency. It was not a market-driven foreign exchange market. And if I could, I don't know how quickly we will move, but I would like to get back to foreign exchange market and why Nigeria is in the mess it is with the value of the naira and stuff like that. But anyway, to go back to price control board. And so price control board is supposed to set a price for something. And it asks companies, give us your input pricing. So they say, we buy raw materials for $20. We do this, we do that. So price control says to you, okay, you have to sell this good for 10 naira. You say, okay. You know that you did not get foreign exchange for the price that is quoted as the official exchange rate because you had to buy from one chief who bought from one Alaji who bought from. And you know that if you sell it at that price, you will just go out of business. You can calculate the day you go out of business. You are giving away all your money to shareholders. So you either stop producing, or if you are clever, like many people did in those days, you decide, okay, there is a price for a brand new good, say something like a car, but there is no price for a used one. So your business becomes generating as many used cars as possible because people of their own, because of supply-demand issues, will pay 3 times for a used car the price of a brand new car. You see the absurdity of it. But that went on. And until adjustment policies led to both freeing of the exchange market and a freeing of pricing generally, supply, demand, then regulated prices, and you reach a certain equilibrium that allow people to pay a decent price and the availability took place. What we will see if we implement some of those policies is exactly what Venezuela experiences, that we experienced during the price control regime. The government, in fact, then went as far as setting up a company called the National Supply Company to actually bring in sugar, milk, all that stuff to sell at a regulated price. What happened? Became the den of corruption. And you can go on and on what these things do.
Prof, apologies if I may jump in quickly. So you see what the governor of Niger State did. He has since banned until further notice the bulk sale and purchases of food items in the state because of the issues of pricing and speculations on some of these commodities. So governments are making, and if you look at other African countries, there's so much pressure on their currencies too. Kenya, to Ghana, to Egypt, there are pressures on their currency. Nigeria is battling on one hand inflation rising, on the other hand the issue of FX that is not looking good. But where do the federal government go from here? Because the president declared months ago a state of emergency on food security. So if you were the president, what would you do to salvage the situation immediately?
See, Seun, this is an interrelationship of many things. One very important component in this thing is security. Farmers can't farm because, it's not secure to go to the farm. So there is no food that is available. How do you make security available to people so they can farm? That's another question, but it's related. It's very important. Obviously, there are problems that have been, in my view, created by Nigerian politicians. Our problem in this country, the politicians are responsible for most of it. First, the discipline of sitting down to work at problems is not there. And secondly, the perception of the people is that politicians are taking care of themselves. I mean, imagine how ridiculous it is at the time when people are suffering the way they are, and politicians are still throwing their freebies around, buying funny, fancy cars, doing all kinds of things. When you get this kind of emergency, everybody crashes. If politicians have to go by motorcycle around, let them go. There's nothing wrong with that. But the people will see everybody sacrificing something to fix something. You go after, but we're not in a market economy. So in a market economy, how do you deal with this kind of problem? Bringing in controls, again, is not exactly how you deal with it. You deal with inputs. Okay, we got into problems as a global economy during COVID. What did the governments that intervened do? They essentially made more money available to people where they needed to and stuff like that. They didn't say, no, you can't sell at this price. You do things relative to and aligned to the particular strategy that you're pursuing. The problem is we're not sure what strategy the Nigerian government is pursuing. It's not clear. Because when you are sure what your strategy is, you can then begin to align things within a market economy trajectory. These are the kinds of interventions that will facilitate, that will lower inflation. Okay, yeah, monetary policy. Yeah. So interest rates will go up. You get to a point. It's not sensitive to interest rates going up anymore. Who is borrowing? How? There are other more fundamental problems. Check out how South Korea has tried to deal with these kinds of problems in recent months, how they intervene directly with manufacturers and so on and so forth. So it has to be, the starting point is, what's the model of this economy we're pursuing? What's our national strategy? And so what things are effectively aligned? Everybody has to now sit down and say, look, our country is in crisis, but the politicians are still playing politics and, everything is, you abuse this person, you abuse that person. They don't even think. And our country is drifting. So I think that the leadership needs to rise.
All right, Prof,
across the board.
Yeah. Let me put you in a very difficult situation because I like us to be frank. Because what we are talking,
you always do.
No, I try. I try to have a conversation that will help the polity. But let's be frank here, Prof. Whatever situation that we are in right now is a situation that needs some urgency, that needs some quick attention. It cannot wait till tomorrow. There are things that need to be done immediately. And I'd like to know, we've heard from Atiku Abubakar on how he thinks that the government is going about the business of economy. He doesn't agree with the federal government about the manner in which they are going about it. Peter Obi too has criticized. But beyond all of this criticism, give us an understanding of the fact what the federal government is doing wrongly. What would you say is a primary step that you can say maybe a misstep or a mistake or an error in judgment that the federal government is taking immediately that needs to be corrected quickly?
I mean, Shehu, you can glean this from what I have already said. My friend, Professor Osita Obu, has just written a book about development, his attitude. How do you get a certain attitude that helps with problem solving at this particular time? It has to do with what I say all the time. It's about values. Character is everything. If the world does not trust you, they won't give you the slack. But right now, the people who are running things must sit down with IMF types and co. They don't have to go into IMF, tell us what to do kind of thing. But they must sit down with them. Look, even the IMF and the World Bank say they're not sure that even this regime is transparent with oil receipts. They've said it openly, it's not a hidden thing. So everybody has to come clean. Look, if only we just improved our earnings from oil, coming from somebody who has said for years that we should shut the oil wells, possibly, if we're going to get a sense out of this country. If only we could just, and we have the capacity to actually produce 3, maybe even 4 million barrels a day, breaking OPEC quotas or whatever it is that we need to break. But why is it being stolen? Who is stealing it? Come on, Shehu, in this world, in this age of technology, where you can spot from satellite somebody's name tag on a battlefield, they don't know who is stealing shiploads of crude oil. There's something wrong. If they, hey,
did you
don't
smell
know,
sabotage? Prof,
ship out.
Do you smell sabotage? Or you smell deliberate attempt at crippling the economy?
Who of who?
I'm asking.
The political class generally is too narcissistic, so self-centered. They don't really care about people. I tell you honestly, if they did, they would realize what's going on and say, look, fellows, this is our country, we're destroying it. Let's sit down now. Everybody, let's sit down and see how we fix this thing. But they're all still playing games of who has power, who rigged, who did that, and your country is dying. It's a tragedy that we have these kind of people and they call themselves politicians.
Prof, so you called it a tragedy. I call it a ticking time bomb, because the average person is like the grass that is suffering. The big man in this country are not as feeling the pinch as the average person, the anguish and the pains, the fact that the average Nigerian citizens are feeling is very critical. And they are unable to speak for themselves. That's the unfortunate thing. But Prof, take a look at the prices of commodities. I've been showing this for the last days on this program, but it is mind-boggling. And it's perhaps one of the things that Femi Falana had gone to court to also argue in the court against the federal government and the price control board. He said sellers are not always sincere as they are so desperate to make excessive profits at the expense of buyers. Prof, look at the cost of Gary. Look at the cost of rice, the cost of palm oil, the cost of cement. Nigeria, the average citizen are the ones suffering. Is there anything that can be done urgently to alleviate this suffering?
Look, Shehu, my friend FF obviously is moved by the right passion, obviously. But economics tells us that that path is not what will solve it. But the fact that he has pushed that pressure button should be a call to order for everybody to come and look, let's sit down. You, these politicians, come out and come out clean. Who is stealing the oil? What can we do to reduce insecurity, get people to be able to go to the farms and they are producing food for people to eat, get these oil pumps earning the dollars, 2, 3, 4 million barrels a day, whether we break OPEC quota or not, and get that. Look, for many years, Nigeria has depended on foreign exchange sent home by the diaspora. Diaspora has become a significant part of this economy. And they are supporting their people from there because things are not going well for most of their people. But you know what? That used to lead to an inflow of foreign exchange into the country. And that helped us keep things going. Today, technology, entrepreneurship has made it such that that dollar is not coming to Nigeria. They simply use one app, and a Nigerian in London or Chicago who wants to solve a problem for their person here gives dollars to somebody who is there, and Naira goes to the persons here. So yes, he solves the problem, but the Nigerian economy has not received the input of the dollar. And central bank helped contribute to that by some missteps they made in the last few years. So this is a major reason why the exchange rate is tumbling. Can we fix that? It is possible, but it takes people sitting down. It takes people believing that the character of those who are making decisions,
all right, Prof,
such that they can trust them.
Yeah, Prof,
that they can trust those people.
Yeah, I'm being told I have less than 30 seconds to go. In our editorial 2 Sundays ago, we told the world and we told the president that all the eggheads in this country needs to come into one room and think about how we can get out of this economic quagmire. If we are to do that, Prof, if you are the president today and he's your friend, if you can talk to him tonight via this platform in 30 seconds, how do we go about getting all the eggheads in this country to fixing our economy? Can we do that in 30 seconds?
Yeah, the problem is that my head is made of bone, not eggs. That's the big problem you have with that question. Look, Mahathir Mohamad, you know, when Malaysia was in a similar crisis situation, just essentially assembled the thinking people and said to them, nobody leaves this room unless we agree to how to fix our country. That led to what was called the new economic policy. And that was the beginning of Vision 2020 and the rise of Malaysia. Those things can be done, but you've got to lay down all this braggadocio. You know, there's a legitimacy crisis in the country. You know, you were talking to INEC people, and I joked with you when we were coming on, who takes INEC seriously anymore? You couldn't make moves that make people believe that you are serious about being taken seriously. INEC should be fired. Everybody there should go. Should begin to rebuild our institutions. That sends a signal.
We are totally out of time, Prof, but I must sincerely thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate it. In any case, you are an egghead. You are not a bonehead. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Well, that's our show for today. Many thanks for watching. Bye-bye, everyone.